Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of a new series I'm starting called Where I Started, a series where people share where and how they got started in their tech careers and also share any tips and advice on how others can pursue a career in tech as well. The goal is to make these videos short yet valuable. I'm your host, Frank Gillen. In this episode, I'm honored to be joined by Salesforce Golden Hoodie winner Mark Tossell. Mark is a lead solutions engineer at Tableau, a Salesforce company. He is joining me today all the way across the globe in Sydney, Australia, which, for any of you that were wondering, that is a 16-hour difference from where I'm located here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, welcome, Mark, and thanks for taking time out of your day to join me.
Yeah, g'day, Frank. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
So, to start things off, before we start talking tech, why don't you share a fun fact about yourself?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've led such a a strange and convoluted life. So maybe a good way to start would be by sharing that in my late 20s, I traveled all across the United States in a 15 passenger van in a men's quartet singing group, traveling and singing, and yeah, that surprises I think many people. So there you go. There's a fun fact.
Wow, that's definitely something I wouldn't have guessed. So appreciate you sharing that. So now, if we jump into the tech talk to start, where and how did you get started in the tech space?
Yeah, that's a great question, Frank. So again, my background is very much non-technology. So even though I was a mechanical engineer for 2 years with Procter and Gamble, I never really got started in that career. I never enjoyed it. And I left that. I went to the United States, near Chicago, studied for ministry, and I was a pastor in a Baptist church for almost 20 years. And figured that would be my life. That was all that I really knew from a career or vocation perspective. But due to some mental health challenges, I was unable to continue in that career. That left me in a very difficult position, my family and I. So I ended up unemployed and couldn't get work. Felt like I was unemployable. Was in a really tough place financially, emotionally, vocationally. And then a dear friend who I think just really wanted to give me a break knew that I had played around with Microsoft Access years before, many years before, and told me that they were looking to implement Salesforce, which was a CRM. They needed someone to build it for them and customize it, and asked if I would be interested. And I said that I was very much interested. And then I got off the phone and Googled Salesforce and Googled CRM because I had no understanding of what they were at all. And the next day I had an interview, just the one interview, and amazingly got the job. The joke we have today, we're still friends, he and I. The joke is that I don't know who was crazier, him for offering me the role or me for taking the role. um, but that's how it got started, and from there it went into from Salesforce Financial Services Cloud um, to Pardot Marketing Automation to what was then Wave or Einstein Analytics, Einstein Discovery Machine Learning, and then from there into co-founding and co-leading a Salesforce and Tableau partner business, and then I joined Tableau just over a year ago in January 2022.
That's an incredible journey, especially since you were 20 years in ministry and just a transition into tech. And it seems like you've touched so many products within the Salesforce ecosystem. So right now you're a lead solutions engineer at Tableau. How many years have you been in this current role?
So just over a year now.
What are some of the things that you like most about being a lead solutions engineer?
So it's very different to my my previous roles in tech, going from a Salesforce admin and a business analyst to then being in charge of pre-sales, sales, and post-sales at a partner business. This role is very focused, Frank. So as a solution engineer, it's a technical pre-sales role, but essentially, in a nutshell, my job is to help a customer find the best solution that's going to solve their problems and meet their needs. And
Okay.
then, of course, assist our sales team in getting all of the licensing and everything sorted out. And at that point, it's then handed over generally to an implementation partner to assist the customer. Honestly, I love my role. There's very little at all that I don't like about my role. As far as what I do like, probably my favorite aspect of the role is just the customer engagement sessions. So I really enjoy meeting a customer for the first time, hearing about their business, understanding their technology stack, getting a grasp of their problems, not only from a technology perspective, but also from a business process and a people perspective, because many issues with technology are actually not rooted in technology, right? They're rooted in process and in people.
Right.
Uh, Really enjoy those sessions, love those, ideally in person if I can. So I'm glad that we're back to in person meetings. I also get a real kick out of building proofs of concept and demoing those to a customer and showing them what the technology can do. It's a real buzz to um, collaborate with my colleagues. I'm really blessed in that I work with a group of about 20 or so super talented engineers. I'm very lucky to call them my colleagues, and I think we really help each other to grow and learn. And then I'd also say that the continual learning is a very enjoyable part of the journey. So I'm currently learning a lot more about the Tableau embedded analytics offering, and I'm also preparing for certification in Snowflake. So
Okay.
there's a lot of learning. It never stops. It's never a dull moment, and that's how I like it.
Yeah, I had this weird feeling that you were gonna mention something about enjoying customer interactions. I happened to see on your LinkedIn that you've spoken over 1,000 times at different, events and I just find that really interesting. That I think it was 4,000, if I'm correct. Is that right? Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
think I tallied it up once, about 4,500 talks of one kind or another. So I guess I'm not too shy when it comes to that.
that's incredible. And I know you mentioned that there's not much that you don't like about your current job, but if you had to, pinpoint anything that you would like to see better, or things that you don't enjoy as much about your role, is there any pain points or stresses that you face in your role?
Yeah, I had a good think about this beforehand, and I'd have to say the one thing about my role that I don't like is what I miss from my previous role, and that was as a consultant and working with our implementation team. I really enjoyed seeing the process of implementing the technology, improving the implementation, training the people, guiding change management, and then seeing the go live and watching the impact that the technology has and getting that feedback, both positive and negative, about what could have been done better, and where improvements could continue to be made, and even guiding a customer on their technology roadmap. That's one area that I'm not involved in very much as a solution engineer. A little bit involved in post sales, but it's mainly a pre sales role. So for me, I do I really don't enjoy the fact that once we go, we've guided solution design, the customer has purchased the technology, they've got an implementation partner, but at that point, usually move on to um, another customer, and that's probably the only thing that I don't like.
What would you say are some skills one must possess to be successful in your role?
I think to be a successful solution engineer actually requires quite an eclectic set of skills and abilities. Many of them are transferable from other vocations. So, to give an example, a really important part of being a solution engineer is the ability to clearly articulate things like business requirements, challenges, solution design, and be able to present to a small or to a large group in various different settings. And of course, in my previous life as a pastor, that's what I did for many years. So those skills certainly stood me in good stead. I think as a solution engineer, whatever technology you're working with, if it isn't already a platform that you're deeply familiar with, then you'll need to become very familiar with it. So, fun fact for me is that my background when I was hired as a solution engineer was in Salesforce, Pardot marketing automation, and Einstein Analytics, or what is now CRM Analytics. I
Okay.
had very little familiarity with Tableau, and I was hired as a Tableau solution engineer. So I've been furiously learning and getting multiple certifications in Tableau, shadowing customer conversations early on with our experienced engineers, and just really getting to grips with the technology. And I know that's an obvious one, but that's really important. I think as well for a solution engineer, you've got to be creative. You've got to have curiosity. You've got to be a problem solver, and soft skills, people skills are very helpful. Sometimes conversations can get a little either heated or ambiguous, or you need to know how to have those crucial conversations in a way that is professional and also productive. So yeah, I would say those would be some of the key skills.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially with the ongoing and continuous learning. I mean, even, I'm much earlier in my tech career than yourself, but I feel like that's a common theme regardless of where you're at in the tech space, that continuous learning, because technology is so dynamic that you almost have to start learning the next thing before you're done learning your current task or assignment. So I'll wrap things up. The last question I have for you is, if someone wanted to pursue your career right now, what's some advice that you would give them? Whether that be, where they can start, or, resources that you'd recommend, really anything.
Yeah, it's actually quite a tough question, Frank, because there are a great many different type of solution engineer roles. So there's the typical kind of standard solution engineer role, which is very much focused on the technical pre-sales, but then you have some solution engineers that have a very strong um, technology evangelism aspect to their role. Um, I would say if someone's looking to become a solution engineer, then you really want to be in a role in preparation where you're scoping projects, you're conducting discovery workshops, perhaps you're actually able to implement technology either in your own organization, where the customers are internal, or as a consultant where you're performing this work for external customers. I know colleagues, all of them have quite unique and different backgrounds. So I guess I really just can only draw my own experience. And that was, in the consulting world and as a business analyst, as an employee in a small business, you've got to really um, get your hands dirty with project work and solving problems, communicating, um, learning, and all of that. I think that the certifications are important. So whatever platform you're looking to be an SE for, you do want to have some certifications. But like I said, I joined Tableau and I only had one certification in Tableau. That was the desktop specialist. I've since
Right.
got two more, much more complex certifications on the job. I would also suggest that because communication and presenting are a very important part of the role, then get as much experience as you can in that space. So I don't. Do you have Toastmasters in America?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So I would, for example, I would suggest, particularly if you struggle with presenting or public speaking, and you want to get practice in an environment where you're going to get some really helpful feedback, then I would suggest Toastmasters. There's really no substitute for experience. I recently had someone compliment me on a talk that I gave recently, and they asked me about where I learned to speak publicly, etc. And I smiled and I said, "Well, you're just starting your journey of public speaking." I said, keep in mind that I've spoken publicly well over 4,000 times, and there's a lot to be said. As long as you're improving and you're teachable and you keep that beginner's mindset, there's a lot to be said for just practice in that space.
Yeah, I really like that, especially being teachable. I think like a lot of people have to step back and really be willing to, maybe not constructive criticism, but really be willing to take a look at what they can improve on rather than, building upon skills they might already have. I think that's great advice. And to wrap this interview up, I just wanted to give the floor to you, to really just drop any channel or network that you would want to share with the audience, that where they can connect with you or ask you any additional questions.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's been a real pleasure. Again, thank you for having me, Frank. More than happy to connect with people via LinkedIn or Twitter. If you did want to have a conversation, then if you connect through LinkedIn and message me, we can chat that way. I'm constantly having conversations with people on their technology journey all over the world, and I really do enjoy trying to help people in any way that I can. And I do have a blog site, so it's just my name as one word, marktossell.com. And it has articles around Tableau and CRM analytics, but it also has a number of articles about building out your career in the Salesforce ecosystem and things of that nature. So those assets may be helpful to people.
Yeah, no, thank you again for joining me, and I appreciate you sharing your experience. And again, thanks for being the first guest on the Where I Started series.
My pleasure, Frank.